Okay, perfect. So my name is Asfa Shakeel, and today I'll be talking to you guys about how to write a good college essay. Before we start, I just want to let you know that this meeting will end in 40 minutes. So if it ends and we're not done by then, you guys can just press on the same link and join once again. So I think that's that. Um, let's start. Is there anybody else that you guys know that wants to join that we should wait for, or is everybody fine with starting now? You can just let me know in the chat or something. Okay, I shall just start then. So with a college essay, there's not really like one checklist that I can give you guys where it's like, do this, and you'll have a perfect college essay which will get you into Ivy Leagues or something. So what I came up with instead is like around 18 tips that I just thought of today while I was thinking about what to tell you guys. And I think that those could really help you, but also keep in mind that everybody has a very individual process while writing a college essay. So if even one of these things can help you, but you can't incorporate all 18 into your essay, like that should be okay. Don't stress out about this process too much, because genuinely everybody does have a college essay in them, a story to tell. It's just about like finding the right time and the right way in which to tell it. So I think we can start. And the first thing that I wanted to say, I think it connects to what I said before this also, is that a college essay is not going to be a checklist item. Like, you cannot schedule it, in the second week of August, like September, Saturday ko 5 to 8 p.m. मैंने बैठ के college essay लिखना है. Like, that's not how it's going to work. So you will need to have some level of inspiration in order to be able to sit down and write 650 words, because this is genuinely like you have spent now 18 years preparing to go to college. This is now the 650 words which decides whether or not a college thinks you are the right person to go. So it's not going to be something that's so straightforward that you can just write like, and you can just hit xyz points and then you're in. It has to be a very personal story. So because of that, what I always recommend is that if you've given yourself some kind of checklist, what you should put in your to-do list is time to think about what to write. Like, think about what stories in your life have really stood out, what has impacted you the most, what kind of message do you want to portray. Us cheez ko matlab to-do list mein dalo, and then your brain will just think itself about whatever stories you've thought of, to the point where you will feel inspired enough to sit down and start writing. I think that's better and a more natural way of writing, because you cannot, it's a college essay is not like a personal statement which you send to the UK, but it's not achievement oriented, it's very much message oriented. So unless you know what message you want to give out, you're not going to be able to write a good essay. Okay? Also, if anybody has any questions or any technical issues that you're facing, just send them in the chat, and like I think it'll be easier for everyone than speaking up. Say. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that a college application is genuinely, it's very frustrating sometimes, because you'll always feel like it doesn't represent you well enough, because you're a whole other person than just what your grades and your achievements tell about you. So what I always say is that when you're putting together a college app as a whole, make sure that you're not telling someone the same thing twice, because it's not like you have ample space to just write on and on and on. You have very limited amount of extracurriculars, grades to tell, other things to inform colleges about. I know you have only 650 words in which to represent yourself. So, and also supplements are necessary, like are always going to be like, why should we choose you? तो उधर आपकी achievements ही जानी होती हैं. So make sure that you leave all your achievements, all your grades, extracurriculars, those kinds of things for your supplements, and don't just use your college essay to repeat the same things, because then what is the purpose of it? Why would they ask you for a college essay if they were just asking you for the things that they can see anyway in your college application? So you shouldn't be repeating the same thing twice. That's a very important thing. You should make sure that your college essay as a whole is like something different that your admissions team would not have known unless they had read it, if that makes sense. Tika, again, if anybody has any questions, just make sure that you are like asking in the chat. And I think that we have like a Google Classroom set up, so even if you like miss some point or something, don't worry about it. I'll make a list and put it up on the Google Classroom, and then all of you can access it. ठीक है. अच्छा, the third thing is that at least a lot of people ask me, like what the process to write a college essay is, like where should you start and how should you finish it. So my thing would always be like, I think a story centric essay is always the best way to go, because it's something that's engaging. It's 650 words mein aap ek life story to manage kar nahi sakoge. So it's better to tell one story which is representative of a bigger things. Okay, so the first thing that you want to think about is, what is the message that you're wanting to send universities that they can't see from the rest of your application. Dekho, if you're applying to US universities, a lot of you will be applying for financial aid. So the fact that you're academic minded, the fact that you're intelligent, the fact that you're, involved in extracurriculars, that you're involved in sports, whatever it is, वो तो उनको वैसे ही पता चल जाएगा from your application. So what is it about you that you want colleges to know जो application पे नहीं है? Say for example you love animals and you're very compassionate about animals, and you think that that's something that colleges should know about you. तो पहले आपने मैसेज सोच लिया, अब आप सोचो कि इससे रिलेटेड कोई 5-6 स्टोरीज जो हैं आपकी लाइफ से, what do you think best represents this particular message that you're wanting to send out. Okay, so when you start from a message and then you come to a story, it's much easier to make have that message in mind the entire time that you're writing the essay, as compared to the other way around. I hope that's making sense. Again, if anyone is confused, make sure to ask questions. So you've thought of a message. Say that we'll just go with one example. Say that you want to give across the message that you love animals and that you're very compassionate towards them. Somebody said we can just write about any topic. I'll come to that in a minute when I come to prompts. So just hold for 1 second. Yeah, so if the message that you want to convey is that you love animals and you're very compassionate towards animals. ठीक है, अब आपने उसके बारे में story सोची. Say one day you were going somewhere, driving, whatever, you saw a kitten on the road, you stopped to help. It's a very cliche story, but I'm just trying to explain like how to best convey the message that you want with such impact. Even अगर वो cliche story है तो वो किसी से different लगे. ठीक है, you're going across and like you see a kitten on the road and you stop to help it. Now one person would just tell the story कि मैं इधर से इधर जा रही थी and I saw this kitten and I stopped and I helped it like this, and then the kitten was happy and then I was happy. And yeah, it's a good story, but you want to make sure that जो बंदा आपकी story पढ़ रहा है, they feel like they're in your footsteps. Like otherwise your message is not going to convey itself, because genuinely it's not that difficult to tell an admissions office that I am an excellent person and I care about everything and I love everyone. Obviously everybody's saying the same things, but how are you going to convince an admissions office that you are different to what everybody else is saying that they are as well? उसमें फिर आपने ये करना है कि make sure that your story is as detailed as possible. Like give an like kind of a representation of how ordinary your day was. Where were you going? कहाँ से जा रहे थे? What was the kitten? What did the kitten look like? Do you know its breed? What color was its fur? How did you help it? How did the kitten look at you? Like small things that add life to a story and make sure that when the reader walks away, A, they believe you, which is important, and B, like they feel like they were in your footsteps and they feel that same compassion that you're talking about. This could be towards everything, anything, like whatever the message of your story is. The idea is just to put as much detail into your college essay as possible, because you want to make sure that the reader feels the same emotions that you are feeling. Otherwise there's not much difference from a narration to a college essay. Okay, so that's the third point. The fourth point that I wrote down is that you shouldn't be afraid of writing a lot of drafts as well. ठीक है, I feel like a lot of people think कि वो college ऐसे एक दफा लिखेंगे, उसको 3 दफा edit करेंगे, उनका college ऐसे done हो गया. But that's usually not how it goes. Like for example, when I first sat down to write my college essay, I think I wrote like 1500 words, and then I ended up rewriting it like 5 times. Then I got to 650 words. Then when my application deadline was closed, I realized that I had worked on it so much that it was just like it didn't look that good anymore. So I ended up rewriting, and then I sent the 6th or 7th version of the essay to colleges, and that's obviously takes a lot of time. But if you're just not afraid of rewriting and drafts and like keep coming up with new things, it won't be that scary. Like don't keep in your mind that you have to have like a particular number, just 3 dafa ke baad mein phir se nahi isko change kar sakti because I've wasted so much time on it. That's not how you should be thinking about it. Your college essay is honestly one of the most important parts of your college app, because everything else you can't change. You can't change your grades, you can't change your recommendations, you can't change your extracurriculars, but your college essay is the only variable in your college app. So you want to make sure that you are jitni bhi mehnat karni hai wo college essay pe kar lo, because these 3 or 4 months, like however much effort you put in, it's never enough. Like don't ever think कि मैंने बहुत time waste कर दिया, because honestly any extra time that you put into your college app will repay itself. So don't worry about that. that, write a first draft. I always say this, like, for example, again, if we go back to the same example and you want to write about your compassion towards animals, always write one draft where you just like say everything that's in your brain, because that will allow your brain to like filter out all the irrelevant stuff that's in your brain that's related to the subject but is not necessarily convincing. वो सब कुछ निकल जाएगा, तो what remains in your brain is, you know, all the important things that really do need to make it across to the essay. तो एक दफा तो हमेशा give yourself one draft which can be 2000 words, 500 words, whatever you want it to be, as long as you're as short as you want it to be, जिसमें सब कुछ जो भी is in your mind related to that particular topic gets out of the way. Then you sit down again a week or two later to actually write the essay that you want to write. ठीक है? So I feel like this is a little bit of a way that you can make it a little easier for yourself to navigate a bunch of very confusing thoughts often. ठीक है. अच्छा, उसके अलावा, yeah, so in the same way, don't be afraid to rewrite. Like, for example, say you've written an essay और पढ़ा हुआ है drafts में, and you're like, you know, अब essay मेरे सर से उतर गया है, but it's very close to your deadline and you get a new idea. Do not be afraid to at least write it down. I feel like a lot of people wouldn't write it because they would just be like, you know, मैंने लिख लिया now, I don't want to spend more time on this. But honestly, if your brain has like subconsciously been working on the same thought or topic for a very long time, don't be afraid to like give it that outlet and write another essay. A lot of the very successful essays that have, you know, gotten admission into Ivy Leagues have honestly been written in the last week or so before college apps, because तब तक आपका brain एक idea को इतना cook कर चुका होता है कि it has reduced that idea down to a 650 word structure, and it's usually much more successful than would be in like जो आपने मतलब अगस्त में लिखा था when pressure भी नहीं था और deadline की भी इतनी seriousness नहीं feel हो रही थी and all of that. So I hope that makes sense. Like, don't ever be afraid to rewrite. If you feel inspiration to write at any point your college essay, like, go for it and rewrite it. You don't have to use it, but those 20-30 minutes that you'll spend writing those 650 words will never not be worth it. ठीक है? अच्छा, yeah. So my sixth point was कि it's one thing to write a good essay or like a convincing essay, and it's another thing entirely to write an essay that college admission teams will remember. The thing is, like, the practical fact is कि देखो कोई भी अगर for example say लोग Harvard apply करें, even if they have 10,000 applicants, all 10,000 essays will be good. They'll never have a bad essay, because like you're paying a lot to apply to Harvard, you're paying a lot to take the SATs, like you're not going to send them a bad essay. Nobody is. So the aim that you're reaching is not to write a good essay. Like, everybody has a good essay. What you want to do is to make sure कि जो एक admissions team ने 100 essays पढ़े एक दिन में, when they walk away at the end of the day, they remember your essay. Okay? So the aim is not just to make an essay that's impactful or good or well written or has good grammar or the right kind of vocabulary. The aim is to make sure that the essay is something that is remembered at the end of the day, because इसी तरह होगा कि वो आपकी 100 applications एक दिन में पढ़ेंगे, जिसको तो उन्होंने outrightly reject करना है उसको वो कर देंगे. बाकी लोगों में से genuinely उनको जो outstanding लगते हैं by the end of the day, जो उनको याद रहते हैं, जो you know stood out from the rest, वो pick करके like they put them forward. So it's not that scientific a process to where you need to scientifically maneuver your essay. It's very much a human process. So whatever you think would most connect to the people reading your essay and would most make them likely to remember you, whatever your strength is. If your strength is empathy, if your strength is comedy, if your strength is, you know, tell a sad story in a very convincing kind of way, whatever your strength is, use it to make sure that your essay is as unique and as rememberable as possible, कि वो जब पढ़ें तो उनको लगे कि इस तरह का हमने कुछ आज नहीं पढ़ा, ये हमारे दिमाग में stick out किया. And that's how you get separated from the bunch. Because as far as grades and SATs and all of those kinds of things go, very often everything that you have is common across many applications, right? Like, many people have A's and A stars. A lot of people have perfect SAT scores. A lot of people don't need financial aid. बहुत लोग होते हैं जो like हर चीज हर level पे cross करते रहते हैं. So the only thing that differentiates them and you is your college essay. So you want to make sure कि जब वो बैठ के एक आप में और 6 और लोगों में deliberation करें, तो your essay is the one जो they look at your application and they immediately remember it कि हाँ ये वाला बंदे ने इस चीज के बारे में लिखा था. It really stood out, and because of that, we should take them. And that doesn't need to be a grand topic. Like, please keep in mind that it does not need to be a grand topic. Like, I know somebody who just graduated from Stanford and her college essay was about how much she loves biryani, and like she really like went for it and like wrote a whole essay about how much she loves it, and she connected it kind of to Pakistani culture and all that. So obviously it was like a larger essay than just biryani, but the theme doesn't necessarily have to be super important or something to stand out. It just has to be very you and something that's unique to just you. Okay, so that's the sixth tip. The seventh thing that I wanted to talk about, which related to a question that somebody just asked, which is कि topic की tension कितनी लेनी चाहिए, वो ये कि the prompts are pretty much the same every year. Like even when I was writing in 2016, the prompts were the same. Like challenge, when did you challenge some kind of idea? When did you achieve something? I think these are the same prompts that you guys will be writing about this year. तो prompt की इतनी tension मत लो. Write an essay that comes from your heart. वो किसी ना किसी prompt में fit हो ही जाएगा, ठीक है? So first write an essay, then look at the prompts and see कि मैं किस prompt में perfectly fit करती हूँ. Like for example, is your essay about challenging an idea? Is your essay about a time when you achieved something, even if it's small, like if it was a personal achievement, it still counts as an achievement. Is your essay about your culture? Is your essay about something you initiated, like started on your own? Whatever it is, it will fit into one of the prompts, and all you have to make sure at the end is कि prompt का जो general structure है उसका question वो हल्का सा answer कर ले. You know, like for example, अगर आपका पूरा essay about challenging something, like when I wrote my own essay, I wrote about how I had always been taught by culture to not say the word periods, and how by by intentionally saying it every time I was around men, I felt like I was challenging an assumption that a cultural kind of stigma in society. Okay? Obviously that didn't like, at the end of the day, this is a small achievement, but I felt like it still fit into achievement. So that's how I structured it. कि मैंने इस तरह एक society की stigma को challenge किया, and that's how I felt like I achieved something and I challenged something. तो वो उस prompt में fit हो गया. आप जो भी लिखोगे वो किसी ना किसी prompt में fit हो जाएगा. So write fully comfortably. You don't have to worry about prompts. Just at the end, when you have picked one prompt or the other, go for like a sentence or two explaining कि मैंने क्यों इस prompt को pick किया और मेरा ऐसे किस तरह इस पे fit करता है, ठीक है? So it's going to be much more straightforward. If you look at the prompts and then you try to write something that perfectly aligns with it, it often will confuse you more than it will confuse anyone else. So don't worry about prompts too much. Acha, the eighth thing that I wanted to talk about, is like I think again this is, at the end of the day, you will write about what you feel most comfortable discussing, but I always feel like you shouldn't try to be someone that you're not. Like hold on, please share a constructive summary. Yes, sure, I'll share a summary after this, and I'll even post, like I'll give Tareem this list that I have, and you guys can, like, if you want to reach out and ask questions, like that's totally fine, so don't worry about it. The eighth tip is that it's not helpful for you if you try to be someone you're not. Like, look, a person that give someone, like you have excess pocket, that you don't get that much pocket money, but you give half of your pocket money to someone in need, this is often a better gesture because you have actually experienced it than you trying to pretend like on a monthly basis you give thousands of rupees in charity when you actually don't. Because if you haven't experienced something, you are not going to be able to relate to it, you're not going to be able to convey it with the emotion and the personal touch needed in order to convince anyone, okay? So it's always better to tell a personal story. So don't worry about कि मेरी story grand enough नहीं है, मैंने topic important enough नहीं pick किया, मेरी story में emotions enough नहीं है. If it is you, it will convey. But if you are trying to be someone that you are not, it's not going to convey to colleges. Like, colleges have genuinely read thousands of essays every academic cycle. It's very easy for them to spot कि किसका essay उन्होंने like अपने लिए लिखा है और कौन सा essay somebody is just trying too hard to fit into a box जिसमें वो fit in नहीं करते. So I hope that makes sense. Like, you don't have to, for example, if you want to write about whichever theme you want to write about, you will find something in your own life to write about it. You don't have to make anything up. You also don't have to exaggerate a story to make it seem bigger than it is. You just have to write about you, make it as detailed as possible, make it as relatable as possible, and it will convey, like the message will translate to the person who's reading it. Okay? Okay, the ninth thing that I wanted to talk about was K. When you've written a draft, ठीक है, अब आप लोगों ने draft लिख लिया, say even if it's 750 800 words, and you guys think you're like, अब ठीक है, मैं इसी को shorten करके I'll just put it in my college essay and I'll send it out, ठीक है. But say somebody proofreads it for you and they say कि एक major chunk जो है paragraph, जो भी कोई एक paragraph है आपके essay में, we feel that you should rewrite it. A lot of people will often try और like वो उसी essay के बीच में उसी paragraph को rewrite करने की कोशिश करते हैं. I would really strongly advise against this. I feel like if you can take one thing away from this session that everybody can do easily, is that the best way to rewrite or the best way to edit your essay is to like fully rewrite it. ठीक है, आपने जिस तरह आपने एक भी paragraph edit करना है ना, आप शुरू से end तक उसको फिर से लिखो. 650 वर्ड्स लिखने में कोई खास टाइम नहीं लगता, 20 मिनट लगते हैं, 30 मिनट लग जाएंगे मैक्सिमम, ठीक है. बट व्हाट एंड्स अप हैपनिंग इज दैट ईच टाइम, लाइक, so if I'm thinking of a topic and I've been thinking, for example, I'll tell you my own process. When I was writing, I knew that I wanted to write about something related to a feminist topic, ठीक है. तो जो मैंने पहले ऐसे लिखा, that was just like a whole history of feminism. It had nothing to do with me. It was just कि ये होता है feminism और पाकिस्तान में ऐसे अप्लाई होता है और society ऐसे और ये वो. And at the end of the day, it had nothing to do with me. Like, it wasn't even related to me at all because I was just venting about what society is. तो ठीक है, वो my brain had filled up with all these ideas, वो सारे discard कर दिए. Then when I wrote it the next time, it was very personal because my brain had discarded everything that was not related to me, but that my brain had been thinking about subconsciously. वो सब discarded होके एक draft में चला गया, and then what I wrote was all about me, ठीक है. उसके बाद somebody told me to change a few things. When I rewrote the whole essay again, not only did I incorporate their advice, but also again वही recycling वाला process हुआ कि जो सारी irrelevant information थी वो once again एक draft में पड़ी हुई थी, and my brain only retained the most personal and important things. तो वो फिर एक essay में आई along with important critique and feedback, and then I kept doing this until the 7th draft of my essay, by which time my brain had fully understood the message it was trying to convey, and because of that it was super personal. Like, I hope that makes sense. The overall idea is just, and it'll make more sense to you as you guys start writing and as you guys actually like put your essays down on paper. The best way for you to edit anything, say अगर आपको कोई कह रहा है कि इसका मैसेज कन्वे नहीं ठीक तरह हो रहा, डोंट ट्राई टू लाइक मुश्किल से उसको आप स्ट्रक्चर करें और इधर चेंज करें और एक सेंटेंस इधर एक उधर. जस्ट मेक श्योर दैट यू आर जस्ट रीराइटिंग द होल थिंग completely. It will help you improve a lot. It will also help you like get a lot of clarity on what you're writing, and it will structure your essay for your itself. Like, you won't even have to make any effort, वो खुद ही structure हो जाएगा in and of itself, ठीक है. The 10th thing that I think you guys should know is कि yeah, I'm sure you've heard this a lot, like even अगर सबने SATs दिए हुए हैं तो you guys must have heard this कि vocabulary ढूंढना is never a good idea. Like, अगर आप लोगों को एक word आता है और अच्छा है और impressive word है और like fit कर रहा है context में, and you know you feel like बहुत admission officers wowing, मतलब impress होंगे आपसे, sure, go ahead and write it. But if you're just forcing vocabulary for the sake of it, it's not going to translate. And even अगर आपका बहुत personal और मतलब relatable essay है, उसके अंदर से सारी relatability निकल जाएगी because you're going to be like, it's just not genuine to write essays in such formal language where formality doesn't fit. Okay, this is not an academic essay you're writing at all, so please keep that in mind. This is very much a conversational essay. This is you trying to converse to the reader what your message is. You are not trying to academically argue a point. You are not writing an essay about, you know, the history of something or the origin of something or like why should this happen or that happen. You are telling your own story. That's always conversational. आप लोग contractions की tension ना लो, आप लोग like vocabulary की tension ना लो, जितना simply लिखना है उतना लिखो, as long as you are conveying the point. Do not worry about vocabulary. Don't worry about, like, obviously your grammar should be good and your sentence structure should be something that is understandable, but वो तो सिर्फ clarity के लिए. जहाँ तक vocabulary की बात आती है, make it as simple as you want, or if complexity comes naturally to you, वो भी ठीक है. It's the point is just कि आप natural writing के flow में जाओ. Do not force yourself to write in a particular way. It's not going to reflect well on you और आपकी story waste हो जाएगी basically. ठीक है. अच्छा, the 11th point is that anything you write, like a lot of people, ये आपके पहले draft में, I don't know how many of you have written your first drafts, but ये पहले draft में हमेशा होता है that your essay is not really about you. It's like a bunch of things that say you're writing an essay about feeling bullied, right? तो आपका पहला draft जो होगा ना, वो हमेशा usually ये होगा कि it's all about मेरे साथ ये हुआ, फिर उसने ये कहा, फिर उसने ये कहा, फिर उसने ये कहा. It's all about somebody else. It's all about what other people's actions towards you were, or say what life's situation for you is, or how you have been made to feel by other people. It's going to mostly be about other people. It's not necessarily going to be about you. तो इस चीज का आपने ध्यान रखना है कि when you're rewriting, like पहले दूसरे तीसरे draft में ये सब होना, it's not an issue. But when you're rewriting and coming towards your final drafts, make sure that each sentence relates to you. Like, you shouldn't be wasting sentences talking about other people. Each sentence in your essay should have something, we should learn something about you by reading that essay, rather than being like, oh acha, इस बंदे के साथ किसी और ने ये बुरा किया है. that doesn't really tell me much about who you are as a person, how you reacted, what you felt, how, you know, how you came to terms with whatever happened to you. It just tells me कि आपके साथ किसी ने कुछ और किया हुआ है, which is not helpful in terms of a college essay. So when you're writing something, even if you're writing about an experience, if you're writing about a fight, if you're writing about an interpersonal conflict, whatever it is, make sure कि वो आपके अपने perspective से हो, किसी और का perspective उधर होना जरूरी नहीं है. Nobody else is important except for you in those 650 words. Each sentence should add to you and like tell us something important about you. ठीक है? Acha. The 12th tip that I wrote is about comedy, which I feel like a lot of us think that we can be funny on paper, and I'm sure most of you can, but it's just like agar aapko assurance nahi hai ki aap ace kar sakte ho comedy, don't put it in your essay. Like, you should writing a funny essay is always good, like always good, but writing an essay that tries to be funny but isn't funny is not going to reflect well. So make sure कि like जब आप one liners or like zingy words वगैरह लिख रहे हो, to remember that your college admissions, like, you don't know who the person is, you don't know who the reader is, it's totally anonymous. So you're taking a huge risk by writing one liners and all of those kinds of things, because if the person doesn't get it, like उधर ही आपके essay की सारी जो you know, like landing है वो चली जाती है. Sarcasm I feel like always works well because most people understand sarcasm, and like उस तरह का dry humor and everything works. But जब आप like outrightly force करते हो to be funny, it's usually not. So it's better कि like अगर आपको naturally नहीं आ रही है comedy, या naturally, you know, your essay isn't turning out funny, leave that be. Like, don't try to force something in there, because that will usually come across as like, and the thing is, comedy usually doesn't tell you anything about me. Like, if I'm being funny, you won't know who I am as a result of it. So when you do put comedy into an essay, you are essentially sacrificing words that you could have used on you. So अगर आप comedy डाल रहे हो, तो you have to make sure कि it's like its delivery is on point. Otherwise, leave it out, because मतलब comedy that doesn't land is not going to be helpful for you at all. ठीक है? I think that's important to know. Acha, the 13th thing that I wanted to say is कि like, it sounds weird to say, but this essay is not the place to be modest. Okay, like, I'm not saying that you should have an ego or like you should be overconfident or whatever it is, but you should definitely be confident in what you bring to the table, who you are, why you're important, why this college should take you, why your story is relevant and important and good. Because honestly, all of you obviously have a lot to contribute to any place that you go to. Like, you guys have worked for 17, 18, 19 years, and you're going to contribute a lot to the institutions that you go. Okay, don't think of this process as just something jahan pe the college has something that you want and you are begging for it. It's also the other way around. Okay, like, you can add a lot to this college's student body and its reputation and its, you know, like, entire legacy, and you should be aware of that. Okay, like, know your strengths and don't be afraid to like put them across in an essay. Nobody else is like, there's no friends next to you who can be like, nahi nahi, like, this person has these qualities. There's nobody who to like back you up if you don't convey yourself. Okay, like, agar aap nahi, for example, agar aap kehte ho, okay, oh, I'm a good person, but you know, I'm not that good, like, there are other people better than me, like, the college will believe it because they don't have anybody to tell them otherwise. So like, this is not again, I'm not saying be egotistic about it or be annoying about it, but make sure कि जो आपने बात करनी है वो आप confidently convey करो. I can't stress enough on the importance of confidence. Like, there's nothing more. It ticks all the boxes. It makes for an inspiring story, it makes for a relatable story, it makes for a story that is easily remembered, it makes for a person that stands out, and it adds so much character to an entire college app if you are confident about everything you've achieved, whether it's this small or whether it's like huge. ठीक है, तो हर चीज को आपने उसी तरह own करना है. Whatever has come into your life, don't be afraid about it, don't be afraid of it, just own up to it, be confident about it. And if you tell any story with confidence, it adds like 200% of its value back to the story. ठीक है, वही story अगर आप like completely shy या insecurity के angle से बताओगे, तो वो नहीं reflect करेगी to a person who's reading it, because those people do not know you at all beyond your application, and your application is just a bunch of grades and numbers. This is the only human part of your essay. तो अगर आप इसमें reflect कर दोगे कि आप insecure हो, तो वो completely आपके against जाएगा. और अगर आप इसमें reflect कर दोगे कि you are confident and you know who you are, तो वो immediately आपको help ही करेगा. ठीक है? Again, like, if anybody has any questions, just send them in. Acha, the 14th point I'll save for last. First, I'll talk about the 15th thing that I had to talk about, which is writing about mental health, because I feel कि अब mental health की awareness इतनी बढ़ गई है कि every person knows how mental health plays a part in their own life, ठीक है. लेकिन when you're writing about mental health, there are a few practical realities that I think all of you should be aware of, because mental health is one of those things where, say अगर आपकी हड्डी टूटती है, ठीक है, तो आप किसी कॉलेज मतलब कि एडमिशन ऑफिसर को क्लियरली बता सकते हो कि मेरे साथ ये हुआ था, because of this I broke a bone, then I fixed it like this, and now it's fine, and now, you know, my life is back to normal. But when it comes to mental health, like, it's usually something that has a more long lasting impact on a person, and it's not going to be easy for you to convey in an essay कि मुझे ये issue था और अब ठीक हो गया, now I don't have it anymore. Like, that's just not practical or realistic, ठीक है. तो when you're writing about mental health, make sure कि I will the question that was just asked, I'll answer it in the end. So yeah, when you're writing about mental health, make sure कि you are not giving off the impression that college is something that you can't handle, ठीक है. Like, I don't want to say कि like mental health के बारे में लिखना नहीं चाहिए. Like, of course it's your story, and whatever you feel like represents you best, you should write about it. But if high school has, say, 50% stress, like college की academics adds that stress, like adds onto that stress by 300%. उसके बाद आपने अकेले रहना है, अपने फैमिली से दूर रहना है, आप एक different culture में जा रहे हो, मतलब एक different language environment है. Like, there are many things change in your life when you go to college. तो उसकी वजह से there is a huge deal of added stress, ठीक है. And college admissions, people are like looking to see कि like ये बंदा जो आ रहा है ये stress handle कर सकेगा, या will this person not be able to handle what college life has in store for them. So you don't ever want to give the impression कि आप handle नहीं कर सकते किसी चीज को, ठीक है. So I would personally say कि mental health का जो topic है, like, if it plays a part in your story, that's fine. But if it's the entirety of your story, there's two things that come into the mix. एक तो what I've already explained, कि it kind of gives admissions officers this reason to be like, you know, like, I don't know if this person can handle the stress of colleges, which of course mental health doesn't mean you can't handle stress, you know, having a mental health issue. But that's often what people might assume. So uski wajah se be careful of what you're writing and how you're conveying it. And secondly, a lot of people do write about mental health, okay? So it's difficult to stand out when you write on such an issue. So what I would always recommend is, if mental health is a very deeply personal topic to you and you want to write about it, make sure that it plays a part in a larger story. Like, it's not a story in and of itself, because I don't know that will be that convincing for an admissions office team, okay? And because that's, I think, something important to keep in mind, because I'm sure like a lot of you would want to write about mental health, or mental health is an issue that has deeply affected your own lives, but it's always better to like put your best foot forward in these situations. And because mental health is not an issue that you can neatly tie together in 650 words कि मुझे ऐसे हुआ था और फिर मैंने इसको इस तरह solve किया और अब मेरी life में नहीं है. You know, mental health is just a bigger problem than this. So uski wajah se be very careful when you're writing on such a topic कि you are still representing yourself as best as possible. ठीक है. अच्छा, उसके अलावा yeah, एक बहुत छोटा सा tip that I just wrote in here, because I've just seen this a lot, is like, don't waste too many words on rhetoric. Like, that's when I realized that, I learned, that's when it came to my mind, suddenly I had an idea. These are just empty words, they don't mean anything. So you only have 650 words to write a very convincing and relatable and impactful essay. Don't waste them on these kinds of empty words. इनके बगैर बहुत अच्छे ऐसे लिखा जा सकता है. You know, if you realize something, तो ऐसे को पढ़ने वाले को भी realize हो जाएगा कि आपने कुछ realize किया है. You don't have to write, that's when I realized that. You know, ये fillers जो होते हैं, हम like school essays या college essays में तो लिख लेते हैं because you were just trying to make up words or fill up the space, but don't use them in your 650 words because you have other things to say that are much more important. So ये filler words को try and avoid them as much as possible, or even if अगर आपकी natural flow of writing में आ गए, make sure to go back and edit them out. ठीक है. अच्छा, उसके बाद the 17th thing that I had to say was that each college has a personality, which is like how, for example, when you write an essay, तो आप अपनी एक personality convey कर रहे हो. Like, I am this person, these are my traits, and this is who I am as a person. ठीक है. उसी तरह हर college की भी एक personality होती है. For example, if you think of Yale, तो little bit more of an artistic and humanity-centric school would come to your mind. If you would think of Stanford, तो a little bit more of a somebody asked how many points are there. There are 18, and I'm on the 17th. You will be fine. अच्छा, so अगर आप स्टैनफोर्ड का सोचो तो like जरा साइंस या मैथ स्कूल आता है, ठीक है. So when you're picking colleges to apply to, make sure कि आप like उसी ध्यान से like उसी तरह देख रहे हो कि like आप अप्लाई उधर ही कर रहे हो जहाँ पे आपकी अपनी पर्सनालिटी मैच करती है. Don't apply to college जहाँ पे like उनकी वेबसाइट के लैंडिंग पेज से ही पता चल रहा है कि वो आपके लिए सही जगह नहीं है, पर you're just applying because it's a name brand school. apply to places where you have the most chance of getting in the sense that your personality aligns, because you are paying a significant sum of money to attend this university, right, or apply to this university. And when I was applying, I realized कि मैंने अगर 25 applications भरी थी तो मुझे admissions उधर से ही आए थे जिन जगहों से मेरी पर्सनालिटी मैच करती थी, जहाँ से नहीं करती थी they did not take me, and I sent the same essay, right? So एक जगह पे आप आर्ग्यू कर या सेम essay and same credentials obviously, so आप एक जगह पे आर्ग्यू कर सकते हो कि ये essay बहुत अच्छा था, दूसरी जगह पे why didn't it work, and it didn't work because it didn't match the personality that that university was looking for. तो एक तो आप वैसे अपनी like information के लिए universities की personality को assess करो, but also realize कि जब आप एक ऐसे लिखते हो तो वो फिर उस university की personality से match करना चाहिए, otherwise they wouldn't take you, you wouldn't fit into their student body. Like for example, NYU is a school जहाँ पे ज़्यादा artistic लोग जाते हैं. Northwestern is a very elite school, like उधर literally legacy families जाते हैं. So if you have a personality that matches with that school, then you will get in. But if you have a personality that doesn't match with that school, then you will not get in. So apply to places where you have the most chance of getting in. And also realize that chronological order where like you start with say कि आप किस तरह मतलब आपकी लाइफ पहले कैसी थी, उसके बाद what was the incident that occurred, उसके बाद what मतलब कि give an element of suspense, like get people involved in your story, get them interested, get what the general concept of a story is. उसके बाद tell us like the moment, give ample room to this particular element, which is like tell us the moment that your thought process or like your outlook on life changed, and then tell us about your new status quo. ठीक है, न्यू स्टेटस को अगर तो फॉर एग्जांपल आपका विजन फॉर योर फ्यूचर है तो ये न्यू स्टेटस को होगा कि नाउ माय डायरेक्शन इज दैट विजन, और इफ यू डोंट हैव अ विजन फॉर योर फ्यूचर यू वुड जस्ट बी लाइक नाउ आई एम हेडेड इन दिस जनरल डायरेक्शन. ठीक है, आई होप दैट मेक्स सेंस. कि अगर आपका स्टोरी बेस्ड चैलेंज बेस्ड ऐसे है तो आपने एक नैरेटिव स्ट्रक्चर में अपना ऐसे लिखना है, मीनिंग कि आपने क्रोनोलॉजिकल ऑर्डर में चीजें बतानी है, एंडिंग विद आप किस डायरेक्शन में जाना चाहते हो फ्यूचर में, गिवन कि अब आपके साथ ये इंसिडेंट हो गया, व्हाट हैव यू लर्नड, where do you want to go with it, what is different about how you look at life now, इस तरह करके. द सेकंड टाइप ऑफ एन एसे इज वन वेयर आपने किसी चैलेंज की बात नहीं करनी पर यू डू ऑब्वियसली वांट टू कन्वे हु यू आर एज अ पर्सन. इसको आई गेस आप लाइक एक montage स्ट्रक्चर कह लो where like you're talking about a bunch of different things that happened in your life, but like no one thing was big enough to like take precedence over the rest. तो उसमें फिर आप एक थीम like आप इसको मतलब एक thematically आप group कर रहे होगे उस essay को, meaning कि जो all the incidents that you're talking about should have a similar theme. Like did they relate to your family life, did they relate to who you are as who you are socially, did they relate to you in a particular setting. उस situation में फिर जो आप करोगे वो ये है कि think about again what is your vision for the future, do you not know, do you even have any kind of vague idea, general direction तो आपको पता ही होगी ना, because you're applying for a particular college or school or degree or subject. तो जो भी आपकी general direction है उसको पकड़ो and then work backwards from it to where you can put 4 or 5 stories together that link to that same topic and write about it in a way where one element from that particular essay or like one story from that montage can be a little bit uncommon and something that's easily remembered. ठीक है, तो इस तरह आप break down कर सकते हो अपने essay को. I'll repeat it very quickly one more time, but like also I'll give this list to Tareem so you guys will have access to this. अगर आपका narrative structure है, meaning आपने story की बात करनी है, तो you start from how your life was, you move to what was the rising action, like आपकी किस तरह life change होने लगी, what was the actual incident that occurred, the moment of truth where you realized कि realize कि अब कुछ different हो रहा है, and then status quo where like the new status quo where you are saying कि future में अब मैं इधर इस direction में जा रही हूँ, whether that's specific or vague, that doesn't matter, it's fine. Or if you don't want to talk about a challenge, you're going to go for a montage structure where it's more like thematic, like stories that have the same theme are grouped together to make sure that you're working backwards. You're starting from a career that you want, or like a life that you want, or like a particular direction that you want to go in, working backwards, finding a bunch of stories that fit in, making sure that at least one of those stories is something that really stands out, that is something that can make you remembered by the admissions office, and then, you know, like tying it into who you are today, where you are now. I hope that makes sense. ठीक है, so इस तरह करके आप इन दोनों types के essays लिख सकते हो. And then the last thing that I wanted to say was, and I think that this is super important, is that I'm sure as you write your essay, you will get a lot of unsolicited advice, kind of like I'm giving right now. But you guys signed up yourself, so it's fine. But you will get a lot of unsolicited advice, meaning कि like लोग जो essay पढ़ते हैं फिर like वो full अपना thesis दे देते हैं कि इस essay में ये भी change करो, मुझे ये नहीं अच्छा लगा, मुझे वो नहीं अच्छा लगा. I would recommend don't take a lot of advice. Keep like 2 people or 3 people maximum that you know are people जिनका अपना कोई personal experience है जहाँ से वो बात कर रहे हैं, ठीक है? 2 people who you feel like are gonna be good proofreaders, not just in the sense of English, but also in the sense कि उनको पता है what colleges look for. सिर्फ फिर आप उनकी advice लो. 2 people are enough to, or 3 people are enough to structure an essay. You don't need 40 people giving their opinions, because 40 people have 40 different mindsets. So वो उसी तरह advice भी देंगे ना, like it's going to be as scattered as 40 people tend to be, or like as different, उन सब के different mindsets होंगे, different approaches होंगी, and you're just going to confuse yourself a lot. It's not really going to like help you, because हर बंदा like आपको एक बंदा कह सकते हैं यही चीज अच्छी है और दूसरा कहेगा वही बुरी है. It's just going to end up confusing you. So keep in your own mind कि कौन वो 2-3 लोग हैं that you feel like have the experience and have the language skills necessary to assist you. और उनके अलावा फिर आप किसी से, even अगर कोई आपको advice दे या आप किसी को ऐसे पढ़ाओ, like don't take anything that they say too seriously. And I think this specifically applies sometimes, like I'm not talking generally, but like sometimes this even applies to school counselors, because they're not always the best at assisting with college essays, and it can confuse you a lot. But just keep in mind कि आपने एक story बतानी है, आपने अपनी research करके ये story लिखी है. So if you have a bunch of other people that are telling you that this is going on the right track, you don't really need to listen to anybody else. Like this is your application, nobody else's. ठीक है? So I think that's that. And then let me answer the questions. Is it ideal to talk about extracurriculars impact on your life, or is it more than enough to include it in the activity section only? So I would say that you shouldn't talk about extracurriculars unless like मतलब एक तो एक ये कि I love doing sports and I've done sports all my life, like that I don't know that that's relevant. Obviously they'll pick it up from your extracurricular list, and college supplements will usually ask you कि आप ये अगर activity करते हो तो आप ये activity क्यों करते हो, और उसमें आप बता सकते हो कि इस एक्टिविटी को मैं इसलिए करती हूँ because मेरी से personal connection ये, तो that's more than enough time and space to write about an extracurricular in particular. But if you have a story that is like not necessarily related to like the extracurricular in itself, but the extracurricular is mentioned in it, like say something happened to you at a sports event or like an MUN or a debate circuit or debates competition or something, that's fine. Like I'm not saying don't mention them at all, but I'm just saying कि like usko bahut, like it shouldn't be about the extracurricular. You are much bigger than any extracurriculars or grades that you've had. So like keep that in mind. Okay, actually Tahreem is saying that it's time for your next session. So what I'll do is कि like आप लोग just write down my email asfa.shakeel@gmail.com. It's super simple, but I shall repeat it. asfa.shakeel@gmail.com, and like any questions that I didn't answer, just email those to me and I'll be happy to answer them. There are no worries. So I shall just end this session, I think, because it's time for you guys' next session. Or everybody can post questions on the Google Classroom, Tahreem is saying.